Interesting. I'm still out working. I figured I can talk and work at the same time, so I might as well just go ahead and. I gotta take basically everything completely apart, take the struts out so I can get the drive shaft out. So, while I was doing this, I was kind of thinking, what's with forgiveness? People think that forgiveness is. I don't know. They have a weird idea what forgiveness actually is. We seem to have this idea that we think in a humanistic way as far as forgiveness being, it's not a case by case basis. It's when the Lord said He forgave us, He forgave us. Forgiving is forgiving. It's not okay. You ask the Lord to forgive you at a certain point, and then you do something wrong, and all of a sudden you're not forgiven anymore. To me, it just seems like, that takes away from the power of the Lord. It's an amazing thing. When you're standing there in front of the Lord, and you realize how much He actually forgave you, and to be, honestly, to be. I guess that's a good question. Do you love Him because He forgives you, or do you love Him because He helps you during the day, because He helps you with your walk, because He loves you? I guess it's a combination of all different things, as far as how much, excuse me, as far as how much He did for you, and for me, quite honestly, I love Him because of what He did on the cross for me. I love Him because of how He promised to never leave me, never forsake me, which is a big thing for me. But I also, it's weird. I think more than ever, or not more than ever, more than anything else, I guess I just love Him because He constantly forgives me, and I'm a wretch. It can get. I'm just a wretch. Let's just say that, and for Him to look at me and just, see His child, for God to look at me and see nothing but His child, looking through Jesus, looking through Jesus' eyes and sees nothing but a child. It's like, why me? Part of me's like, are you kidding me? What did I do to deserve all that? And look what I continue to do to not deserve it, Yesterday I was, like I said, I'm being honest on these things. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything because of the fact I may fear what somebody might say. The truth is, yesterday, it just overcame me, and I was on the floor. Well, not on the floor. I, got down on my knees and I was crying, but it wasn't a sad crying. It was just a thankful crying. That when you realize how little you are, and that you're, quite honestly, in God's perspective, He doesn't need you. He doesn't need you to get His plan done. He wants you. And that to me is like. Is a wow thing, that even through everything that I've done or failed to do, that there's somebody there who cares for you that much, and it's just, for me, it's an amazing feeling, because I don't want to say I never had that before, because I do, with mom and dad, but it's different. You mess up with mom and dad, and it's, sometimes you could feel bad about that, and, then there's other times where you do something and there's not immediate forgiveness like how it is with the Lord. And not to say, like some people, that it's a license to just go out and sin. No, He forgives you because He knows how you struggle. And where's your mindset when the sin overtakes you? Are you for a selfish desire? But you know what? Even if it's for a selfish desire, and you say, "Yes, Lord, I want this sin, and I'm gonna," He understands your weaknesses in that area, and He's not gonna say, "Oh, your heart's in the wrong place. You're out of here." That's why I love my Jesus. You know, because sometimes you just have a struggle that you can't overcome. You know, and then you just look forward to Him. You know, and it's amazing what He does for you. You know, and let's be honest, you know, sometimes like me, you know, I'm just like, Lord, will you go away, please? And because when the sin comes on me, and yes, it's a let's just say it's a personal sexual sin that I struggle with. You know, when those things come on you, you know, he is let down. The fact that, you know, you commit the sin, but is He going to reject you? No, because I want to be honest with you. And struggling with the sin, it's almost like Paul struggling with the thorn in his flesh that we honestly don't have any idea what that is. You know, he doesn't reveal that. Hold on, I had a pair of, oh, here we go. Need my pliers. The cotter pin on the back of the lower control arm is kind of bent. Anyway, I don't know what I was saying. But when you're, you know, when the thing is that when you struggle with that sin and you deal with it on a constant basis, you know what? You can share with people who struggle with, you know, we don't know what other people struggle with. You know, the whole idea of a Christian, at least what I thought was a persona of a Christian life, was to portray this perfect image that you got it all together. You know, the Lord comes in and He helps your life and He blesses you. But that's bordering on Joel Osteen's heretical teaching. You know, it's not about that. You know, it's about Him forgiving you because He realizes how much of a sinner you are. You know, and He comes along and He just says, hey, you know, try harder. You know, and that's what happens when you struggle with that. You gain knowledge, understanding, and His peace comes in, and then there are times you overcome that urge of temptation or that whatever it is that you struggle with. You know, whether it be sex or drugs or whatever. You know, He comes in and He says, hey, you know what? I understand your struggles, and I want to be here for you because I love you. You know, that's what love is. This whole idea that the world likes to portray that love is some sort of a, you know, some sort of this magical thing that has to be a certain way or else it's not love is absolute. I mean, that's satanic, quite honestly. That's, you know, and people say, well, satanic, you know, you're talking Satan worship. Well, that's exactly what it is. You know, if you're not with God, you're with Satan. I mean, that's as clear as it can get. It's kind of like saying, you know, if you're not with us, America, then you're with the terrorists. You know, it's the same lot. You know, it's the same reasoning. You know, it's either one or the other. Even though you may not be an active terrorist or whatever, guess what? You know, you're part of that group, and so you're going to be punished as part of that group. That's just the way it is. Not to mention that it's completely wrong to murder innocent civilians. And people say, well, they're not innocent. You know, they struggle with sins, and they're not struggle with sins, but they commit sins, and the only way to help them is to kill them. That's the most ridiculously stupid argument I've ever heard. I mean, that's got to be Satan. You know, the whole idea is Satan doesn't want people to turn to the Lord. So yeah, kill them. Kill them before they have a chance to turn to the Lord. You know, and quite honestly, some of the people over there, they have this. They don't have any hope. They look around, they see their situation, you know, and it's like, I mean, it's a war zone over there. I mean, the place is just decimated. Now, granted, Israel is very resourceful. I mean, they have a lot of resources and great economy, and so they're going to look pleasing, especially, you know, you look at what's over in Syria. I mean, it was Damascus and all these towns are just, or Apello, I mean, it's a good one. Actually, Apello's in Iraq, I think. I don't know. I'm getting off the news, but you know, it's just it's an absolute war zone over there. It looks like worse than I've ever seen. You know, and then you know, the people are just like, well, what hope do we have? Well, if you have no hope, then what's the point? You know, and that's the idea. It's just like when I struggle with suicide. You know, if you don't think there's any hope, then what's the point in going on? Because somebody like me, who truly believes in the Lord,
Say, man, I want to go home and be with him. I don't want to be here for this garbage. But guess what? He can use you and the experience that you've gone through to help those other people who, guess what, struggle with the same thing that you struggle with on a constant basis. You know, and like I said, you know, if we portray this image of perfectness as a Christian, somebody else is going to look at that and be like, I can't attain that. It's great, but the road is hard. And didn't Jesus say his burden was light? You know? And it is. The burden is believing. That's all. That's it. I mean, all through, like, it was, repenting your sin. You know, I'm not going to get into that because that's, you know, some people, I don't want to say don't want to give up their sins, but as a new believer, there's certain things that you just don't understand yet. And yes, because of the sinful nature, you don't want to give up certain sins because you don't understand the repercussions of those sins, or you don't understand how it affects your spiritual walk with the Lord. And if you really are a believer and you want that relationship, you know, it'll allow His power to work through you to help you overcome your problems. You know, people don't understand that. They think, you know, you become a Christian and bam, you're like this new preacher, which you are, but that's referring to the spiritual. Think about this. You know, how bad of a person is. The question you should ask yourself, if you are a Christian or a believer, and you think backwards, ask yourself, how much different would my life have been had I not believed in the Lord? How many things would I have followed through on had the power of the Lord not been there to stop it? What kind of person would you be today? I can tell you that no matter how bad you think you are, looking through eyes like that, you realize, well, I'm glad He was there, because I would have done some really stupid things. You know, I would have made some stupid choices. You know, and sometimes you have to pay for those choices. But that's part of the Christian experience, the part of the Christian life where you learn from your mistakes. If nobody is perfect, no, not one. That's why we need forgiveness. You know, He gives you He gives you this sense of, He empowers you with this spiritual strength that you never thought was there before. You know, you come to Him in times of need, and you struggle. It's like with Paul. You know, he struggled with a thorn in his flesh. Now, granted, you know, the Scripture doesn't reveal what that thorn actually was. You know, you can speculate, but really, instead of thorn in your flesh, insert whichever sin you deal with on a constant basis that's habitual. And we all have one, or maybe even more than one. But when the Lord said, "My grace is sufficient," you know, that's probably when Paul understood that, you know, it's not that I can continue to do that sin. No, the struggle is what is used for you to help other believers. If you don't struggle, how can you relate to somebody who struggles? You know, it's like planning for your financial future and going down and talking to somebody who's never had an experience in the finance department. It's the same thing. You know, and so the struggles are allowed because guess what? People struggle with the same thing, and as believers, you know, I almost gave up my walk because I was living such a sinful life, and I thought, man, I can never turn from this. Lord, help me. And guess what? He rips you out of certain situations, no matter how painful it is. When you ask for His help, He's going to help you, and sometimes that help hurts. You know, but hey, the question you need to ask yourself: what's the end goal here? What's the end game? You know, and the end game is not going to be pretty for those who are on the opposite side of the Lord. You know, and I'm not trying to say that to be, you know, mean or insensitive. You know, in this day and age of tolerance, you know, we're supposed to be sensitive to other people and their feelings. It has nothing to do with that. So, anyway, I'm having trouble getting this cotter pin out. So I'm going to have to grab some more tools, I guess. Yeah, I'm at the point of getting ready to pull the engine out. I just got to break the drive locks. I actually had to let the transmission fluid drain overnight. I made this special container with this tube going into this I cleaned this bucket out, covered it with plastic, and used a small tube because if you use a bigger tube, it won't, like siphon, I guess. I stick it down in there because I want to keep the fluid. At $4 a quart, and I'm using 10 quarts of it. I want to save the money, and it's not because of me. I don't want to. That's a way of saving the customer money. It's a good example of something. When you, do you work on something? When you work on something, do you think of the other person? Do you think about what they have to deal with or struggle with? And then think, okay, well, it's $40. It's not that much. I'll go ahead and just drain the fluid and let's replace it. But in reality, you spend an extra, hour because guess what? That money was coming out of your own pocket. Yeah, I don't want to spend no $40. When I got some brand new fluid, I just put in here. So I'm going to find a way to drain it and recycle it. As long as it's covered, because you don't want any, granted, okay, a little dust isn't going to hurt. But the cleaner you keep it, the best chance you have of not allowing it to affect the transmission. So that's the reason why I had to drain it like that. But that's the kind of godly. Now granted, okay, it's not like a perfect sign of, okay, the Lord is real in this. No, but that's the effect that the Lord has on people's lives. When you start thinking about others more than yourself. So it takes me a little more time, but it's saving money. And in this day and age, money is rather important. In the future, it may not be important. But as of right now, it is. And, it's just like taking care of somebody else's car or somebody else's lawnmower that you borrow. Treat it like as if it was your own. And when you work, treat it as if it's your own money. Don't just waste something because, the company can pay for it. We can go ahead and, no. Think of it in the terms of, well, if it was your own money. And that's kind of how you can succeed. Anyway, I'm going to go off on a tangent, and I need to get to work. I was thinking one thing really quick. These are just logs, of course. But then the question I was asking myself is, people get on YouTube or whatever, and they like to scream at the rooftops of, what they believe, and they like to push that on the people. I'm not like that. I'm just another guy. I'm not doing this to make myself feel better. I'm not doing this to try and impress my views on someone else. No, if it was just one person out there who listens to what I have to say and can relate exactly what I'm dealing with, that wouldn't have otherwise come to the Lord, hey, it's worth it. If the Lord's going to send His Son to die for me and pay the ultimate price for me, it's the least I could do for Him. And I hope that I do reach somebody and let them realize that, the Christian walk is easy. The struggle is hard within yourself. If you, the struggle is hard, but the burden is light, because once you believe, you believe. You can't really unbelieve. It's like once you're born, you can't be unborn. Anyway, and so really it's just for, general people watching, and I am a little scatterbrained sometimes. I jump from topic to topic, but that's just how the Lord made me, and maybe somehow it'll reach somebody who's the same way, and that's okay. I'm just a humble sinner who has gone through my entire life being completely selfish. What do I want? What do I want? What can I get? How much can I make? How can I get this car or this house? And it's time not to be selfish anymore. And people will say, well, you just got older and got a little wiser. Well, that may be. But guess what? All of my choices have led me to this point. And I can look back, even when I was living in a life of sin, and see the Lord was there helping me make choices to avoid certain things without me even realizing, and that's when you realize, hey, it's awesome that He's there and He's never going to forsake you. No matter what. Our world's going to sit there and say, oh, well, if you commit this sin, you're obviously not a believer. Well, it's kind of like saying, well, I don't think a fish believes in air. They're underwater. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. You know, 'cause they'll find out what air is if they're outside of the water. And once you believe and it's like saying, okay, that you have to breathe air to survive. You know that I would say the sun's going to rise. But you say, well, you're not sure the sun's going to rise. Well, how about let's just say this. You know that when you stand up in the morning, you're not going to fly up into the sky because gravity's holding you down. You know that. But it's something that you know so much you don't even think about it. You just take it for granted. When you get to a point like that, as far as how it is with the Lord, then you can move on to other things. You can allow Him to work in spiritual ways you never thought were possible. And with me, it's like that. I just kind of take it for granted that the Lord is who He said He was, and it allows me to move on to other things. And I don't sit there and struggle because I believe. And He said, if you believe, you're saved. Period. There's none of this, well, if you believe and do good works, or and go to church, or and have communion, which all those things are good, but do they save you? No, they don't save you. That's where forgiveness comes in. And thank God that He is much more forgiving than us, because if He was as forgiving of the world, none of us would go to heaven.